Indiana is doing what they needed to do
to win games
with a soft schedule to win games, and they have momentum.
Yep.
This whole thing of they suck because they haven't played anybody. Well, you're half right. They haven't played anybody, but this is a damn good team.
I'm not saying they suck because they haven't played anybody. I'm saying I don't believe that they are the 16th best team in the country. All this hoopla of they're going to be a playoff team. Their schedule's not that hard. They'll probably beat Michigan. Ohio State might be the only other loss they have on their schedule. You have nothing to base it on.
No.
You have not seen them play a team that is difficult enough. And you look at the Big Ten teams they have played, or the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten outside of Purdue.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Purdue is still in their schedule. So, I mean,
yeah, plain and
they
simple.
have a pretty powder
Plain
keg
and
schedule.
simple, he has a schedule that is set up to absolutely rock his
100%.
first season. He's already overblown the expectations for him coming in.
Jed
So
nailed
good
it.
for him.
Jed
Good on
nailed it.
him.
They're doing what they needed to do to get off to the right start.
He's gonna go! It's time people feel it!
Red Junkies.
Day by day! Day by day! He gets better and better! He gets better and better! Team is KPB! Team is KPB! If we die, we die!
Man is putting a child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Whoa.
Ooh, that one, a little squirty.
Got a squirter. The bye week is over. And it is time to get back to real games.
Oh, yeah. To the second half of the season. Let's do this.
We're 5-1, boys.
Damn right.
5-1 looking outside looking in on the top 25. It's gonna be a fun one to start off the back half here. This game, it looks way different than it did preseason.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I was going back and reviewing all the stuff that we had talked about in our Big Ten wraparound and then in our preseason schedule breakdown. We looked at Indiana as kind of a, we kind of all gave that like, the over-under in Vegas on win total for them was 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
They've already hit that. They're 6-0.
Yep.
They're bowl eligible. They look like a completely different team than anybody expected them to. They look almost identical to what James Madison was last year.
Their offense looks very composed.
Yes. It helps that they have a 45-year-old quarterback who's played a lot of football. I didn't realize that Curtis Rourke had played at Ohio he started there for 2 seasons.
Well, I feel like he's played for like 8 or 10 years because previous to Curtis Rourke starting at Ohio, his brother, Nathan Rourke, was the starting quarterback for 3 years at Ohio.
Jesus.
So it was literally Nathan Rourke for 3 years, and then it was Curtis Rourke right after that.
Yeah.
So Frank Solich, because that was Frank Solich's last year, right?
He's in his 6th season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's only played 5, but yes.
He's only
he
played
was out
5.
all of last year, right?
He's played.
His first year he didn't play at all.
He's currently played in 41 games.
41 fucking games in college.
Yeah.
So him and Bryce Benhart are hanging out in the gray hair club over there.
Seriously.
That's pretty wild. But
They're the frogs of the group, as they'll say in the military. Fucking really old guys.
Yeah.
Yep. Was he the quarterback last year, James Madison?
No, he was at Ohio. We just said that.
Oh, I knew he played at Ohio in 22.
Yeah.
Did he not play last year because he was hurt?
No, he played last year, but he was injured last year. He played in like 10 or handful of games. I looked at it earlier.
I got you. I was just taking a look at Kurt Cignetti's situation coming from James Madison last year, which made a Cinderella run. They got tripped up late in the season with an OT loss against App State, and then they lost in their bowl game to Air Force. They didn't play anybody else really last year. I mean, Georgia Southern, Virginia was probably the most notable name on their schedule, and Virginia was really bad last year. These guys that came over from James Madison hadn't really experienced a tough game, and they sure as fuck haven't experienced a tough game so far this year.
This is probably going to be a theme throughout this show.
Oh, yeah.
But this is something I'm also tired of hearing throughout the last week and a half.
I get that too.
I'm tired of people haven't played anybody, whether it's Indiana or James Madison. I mean, you're 6 games into the season for Indiana. You are 13 games through the season last year with James Madison. You have enough data points to know who these teams are. If this is week 3 for Indiana and they hadn't played anybody and we were going to be playing them, it'd be a different conversation. I'd be like, okay, well, they haven't been tested yet. No, I'm sorry. Halfway through the season, you know who these teams are.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to argue that they've played anybody because, of course, the schedule has been light. But here's one of my big things is, I got a couple of these on this topic specifically.
You got a couple of big things?
Yes. Don't you wish? But like previous to this last weekend, everybody, and still now, but just in a general sense, everybody said Ohio State is this great team, most talented team in the country, probably all this stuff.
They still are.
No, again, I'm not trying to say that they're not, but previous to this last week, had they played anybody?
Not really.
No. But
Not when you look at their level of talent on that team.
But people still said that they're a great team. But so why aren't you saying, now I'm not saying you, but I'm just in a general sense of people, why isn't anybody saying that Ohio State's not that good because they haven't played anybody? But like they're saying against Indiana.
I'm not trying to say Indiana's not that good because they haven't played anybody. I'm trying to say the expectation preseason was that they weren't going to be that good, and they haven't played anybody that would tell me that they actually are better than just a paper tiger.
Again, this isn't necessarily directed at you guys. I'm talking in a general sense.
They've played 3 Big Ten teams, and they've looked really good against all of them.
That's true.
That should tell you something.
That's true. Speaking of that, there are some people that are saying, well, that Northwestern game, they scored a late touchdown to win by 17 points.
By 17 points.
Okay, what did we do against...
It was a 7-point game going into the fourth quarter.
But what did we do against Purdue?
Exactly.
It was 7-3 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a 4-point game going in the fourth quarter.
It was tied with a couple of goose eggs at halftime.
You can't have it. My point is, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Also, for instance, like Nebraska and the 2 previous head coaches that we've had, most of us Nebraska fans have said, if we would have just started well in the very first game or the first couple of games for both of those coaches,
if Frost game actually would have happened,
whether it's, I'm going to go further back for a second, but whether it's a Hail Mary by BYU in the first game and we lose that one, or if it's the Akron game actually happening and then we have to play Colorado and that stuff happened, if we could have just gotten off to a good start under a new regime, then maybe things would have gone differently, specifically at least in the first year. Obviously, with certain coaches, like the last guy, it would have ended the way that it did because that's who he is. But
it's hard to overcome a cocaine habit.
But you have Curt Cignetti who came in and overcame, or in his first year at Indiana, and they are getting off to a good start, just like we have been saying that Nebraska could have done that same thing with other coaches. Hell, we said it with Matt Rhule last year where he started 0-2. If a toenail didn't go down in the end zone against Minnesota to score that touchdown towards the end, or the field goal that went through with Minnesota, which was just barely off the upright.
Yep.
Who knows how the season changed last year? Indiana is doing what they needed to do
to win games
with a soft schedule to win games, and they have momentum.
Yep.
This whole thing of they suck because they haven't played anybody. Well, you're half right. They haven't played anybody, but this is a damn good team.
I'm just going to simply say, I'm not saying they suck because they haven't played anybody. I'm saying I don't believe that they are the 16th best team in the country. All this hoopla of they're going to be a playoff team. Their schedule's not that hard. They'll probably beat Michigan. Ohio State might be the only other loss they have on their schedule. Blah, blah, blah. All that stuff that's all just, you have nothing to base it on.
No.
You have not seen them play a team that is difficult enough regardless. Mm-hmm. And you look at the teams that they have played, the Big Ten teams they have played, are the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten outside of Purdue.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Purdue's still in their schedule. So, I mean,
yeah, plain and
they
simple.
have a pretty powder
Plain
keg
and
schedule.
simple. He has a schedule that is set up to absolutely rock his
100%.
first season. And you know what? He's already overblown the expectations for him coming in.
Jed
so
nailed
good
it.
for him.
Jed
Good on
nailed it.
him.
They're doing what they needed to do to get off to the right start.
And also, he's never in his entire coaching career as a head coach had a losing season.
And that's awesome.
Not one time. You know, there's a lot of people that talk about Kalen DeBoer and his record as a head coach, and he is 109-13 in all of his years as a head coach.
That's
insane. Asinine.
I mean, it's decent.
But the thing is, Curt Cignetti, in all of his years as a head coach, he is 125-35. I'll take it.
That's decent.
He's just a damn good coach. I mean, hell, like he said at Big Ten Media Days, one of his pitches in recruiting is, "I win. Google me." I just Googled him.
I like it.
I looked at his
pretty good.
record.
That's pretty good.
He wins. Like
Google me, bitch.
that's basically what it
I
was.
win. Google me.
I win. Gib. Google me, bitch.
I like it. I mean, I look at the season as a whole, and it's confusing to me when you look at the spread on this game, because you look at what Vegas had them. And Nebraska was a 4-point favorite in the preseason. We thought that was a little bit weird because we had like a 70% chance of beating them, according to Football Power Indexes on ESPN anyway, preseason. And you flip it now, and it's, we've only got a 23.6% chance of beating them. That's kind of a crazy change when you look at the fact that we've also played pretty damn good so far. I mean, we're essentially one bad long snap away from beating Illinois in regulation, or one extra step by a tight end in the end zone, a decent throw to a tight end in the end zone from beating Illinois in regulation, and us being also 6-0 and probably ranked closer to like 13th or 12th right now playing this game. It's still a big noon kickoff game, which is the Fox version of College Game Day. It's a big game this weekend for a reason.
It's going to be a very close game. That's plain and simple.
I think it's going to be a great game.
They match up very interestingly well against each other.
Yes.
They
Both the offenses
really do.
specifically match up really well against what the defenses do.
Yeah.
I think that the game plan for both defenses is going to look different than pretty much everything that we've seen from both of them so far this season.
You know, one of the things that I saw today, I was scrolling through YouTube like crazy, just watching all kinds of preview videos and whatever else. And I found one that they talked about how Indiana in the RPO, they are like basically.
Was this the PFF one?
It might have been.
Because that show I have data right here from that show that it was a bomb.
I watched like 3 or 4 of them, so I don't remember which one
Yeah.
I got some of this information from. I know I got a couple at different places, but they're like the number 1 RPO team in the country.
Most efficient, yeah.
And Nebraska is like ranked in the 90s.
On defense, 91st against the RPO.
Yes.
But we've also played less, I think they said less than 30 plays on the RPO.
That's true, but still, just the whole fact of that they are very efficient in RPO. You know, I watched 2 of the Big Ten and 60 games today, and you know, one of those plays specifically in the RPO that Rourke is really good at is when he fakes the handoff and then he kind of does that deke where he takes like one step as if he's going to take off, and then he stands up and he just pops it right over the middle.
Yeah,
and that's a fear of mine as far as bringing the linebackers in just to open up that middle of the field, and we'll see. Like, I hope that they can stay home, but
I think this is where you're going to see Rhule made a comment about how he wants to see Javin Wright get 30 to 35 snaps in this game. Yeah. I think that's going to be the biggest key for us across that middle, exactly what you said. Just from a perspective of Javin Wright is the more pass coverage middle linebacker that we have out there. We're going to need that. The other side of that, though, for me is when you look at an RPO, first of all, they're slower to develop. Not that much slower, but they are slower to develop. You look at how efficiently they're running right now. It reminds you a lot of like the Mac Jones era Alabama offense. It was all pretty much short stuff. The only difference was they had way bigger targets on the outside and they could hit a long ball when they needed to. That's not something Indiana is capable of doing. They don't have as much size. Yes, they have electric wide receivers. If you look across their roster,
and they have a lot of they throw to everybody.
It's just like us, actually.
It's not like it's 2 guys.
It's 5 or 6 guys.
Right.
It's just like Nebraska. When you look at the fact that at the end of every game, you've got a box score that's this long on the receiving category because both quarterbacks like to spread it out. He doesn't throw the ball long. They don't throw past 10 yards very frequently. I don't know if that's because he's not very good at it or it's because their wide receivers aren't very big and can't get out there.
So on passes beyond 20 yards for Rourke, his completion percentage is like 56%. So I'm not saying that they do it a ton, but to have that type of completion percentage on those long passes, that's pretty fucking good. Like, whether they do it a lot or not is a different conversation. But when they do it, they are effective.
Yeah.
Another big point on the RPO is that you have to be able to read the defense before you snap the ball.
Yep.
And so our bluffs, our stints, the way that Tony White schemes this week is going to be a huge importance.
And they're going to be great in the they are great in the RPO, but as we will probably say countless times in this show, they haven't seen a defense like us
Nope.
yet. So
They have definitely not seen a defensive line like us
Rourke
yet.
has not seen the type of pressure that we're going to bring.
I hope we bring it.
Yeah.
I hope we bring it. If we play the same kind of defense that we did in the Illinois game in the first half of the Purdue game, he's going to have plenty of time.
And conversely, for our offense against their defense, Raiola is really good against the zone. And I think this was on the PFF
Definitely
thing.
watch the same video.
Yeah. And
I got the numbers here.
Indiana basically only runs zone defense. I think it's 160 snaps.
89% of their plays against the pass, they have run zone.
Yeah.
It is good for ninth most in the country. It's wild. It was 160 out of 180 snaps against the pass.
And also, as far as their defensive backs, we all know how big our wide receivers are. Their defensive backs, they have one guy that's 6'2".
They have one guy on the roster listed as a DB over 5'10",
And all of the rest are 5'10". Like that's
or under.
So send our tall guys down the outside.
Well, there's
and just assume they're going to catch the ball.
There's a giant size difference when it comes to our number one and number two. Nair and Banks are both 6'4". You throw in this is a Carter Nelson game
Fedoni,
that's
for
6'6".
sure.
You throw in a Fedoni that's 6'6". They don't have guys that can cover these guys. And the thing that I think that points to for me the most, and the reason I started out by talking about James Madison's schedule from last season, most of these guys, a lot of the playmakers that he brought over, they're playing, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and they've played good defense to this point, but they are small on the defensive line. They are small on the back end. They are not a Big Ten, big schedule team. They are fast, they're electric, but they are not big. And we're the first test that these guys are going to see from a size perspective that's out there. I mean, they have played, like we said, UCLA, small. They have played Maryland and Northwestern. Northwestern's probably got the biggest dudes, the most Big Ten size dudes that they've played so far on their schedule. It's going to be a different animal for them. And I really think when it comes to the defensive side of things, we're not, their offensive line's not that good. They're also not very big. It is not going to be the same type of, well, we got to bring 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in order to get pressure. With Nash and Ty coming up the middle, there's going to be enough pressure for them. If we're able to shut down the run game, that's going to heavily affect the way that they are running effective RPOs against us. It's not going to be like the Illinois game because this Curtis Rourke's also not that mobile.
No, but he can.
He can get out there, but he's not what Altmaier was.
No, but I would compare him, and I know people are going to freak out. I would compare him as far as mobility-wise, like a Mahomes. He's very smart when he moves. He's not going to be quick or fast, but when he finds that little opening to get 5 or 6 yards, he's going to be able to do it. Like he's not a runner by any means, but he is able to be mobile when needed.
We do give that up some.
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of it comes down to how many guys we bring.
Yeah.
So, yes, their offensive line isn't the greatest. One of the big reasons is one of their best offensive linemen. He was a guard. He got injured in the preseason, and he's not playing for this season. But their running backs, they run with a fucking purpose.
Yeah.
Like, they run
And they have
heavy.
a lot of them, just like Nebraska does.
They run hard. All of them are basically Kyle Monungai's size from Rutgers. They're all 5'9", basically 210. But they run absolutely hard. One of the stats that I saw on Pro Football Focus was they, as a team, not just the running backs, have forced 68 missed tackles in the 6 games. Like, that's pretty fucking good to have basically 11 per game.
No shit.
Forced missed tackles. Like, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Kidding.
They run hard.
Yeah, I was looking. They have 2 guys that have over 60 attempts on the season already, and they have 4 guys that are over 100 yards on the season.
They are shifty as hell.
They spread it around.
Yeah.
They have one kid who is averaging 9.2 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. The other thing that I'll point to that was another stat from that specific video, they're 6-0. They've got 4 wins over FBS teams that are all rated on the power index on PFF anyway, 85 or below.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are FCS teams. I'll say it again. I'll say it over and over again, until Saturday comes and goes, they haven't played anybody.
Well, to that point, I think you can say the same thing about Nebraska outside of Colorado. All of our teams were either FCS teams or
Illinois
outside
looked
of
really good, but
right, but they were
Rutgers
still
wasn't. Rutgers isn't down there. Rutgers was a fringe ranked team when they came into Lincoln. I mean, you have to look at it. Illinois is still ranked. Illinois, like, we've played better teams. We've played better competition. We've played ranked style teams.
for sure.
I look at this game very similarly to what Illinois is, but Illinois' lines, both sides, are big. That's not what we're going to run into against Indiana. I'm excited about it. Is there anything that you saw that was going to be a glaring hole for us?
Everybody hates a glaring hole.
Well, it depends on how it's glaring at you.
why would you hate it? I don't know. I am not all that thrilled to see their, we've talked about it before it started with Northern Iowa, where their running backs would get the ball and it was kind of a delay draw type play where they kind of wait and let the edge guys basically get upfield. We just zip, they just zip right through us. I think that could be a possibility for how Indiana wants to attack us.
We saw Rutgers try and do that. They were effective for 10 minutes.
For a quarter, yeah. And then we adjusted and everything. I think Indiana is going to play more like Illinois. And I think that they probably memorized the Illinois game plan by now through these 2 weeks that they've had too, because they had an off week as well. And I think that they've pretty much watched that Illinois versus Nebraska game probably about 150,000 times, where that's going to be one of their game plans.
Makes sense.
The thing that I love about that is we got to play that game and have been learning from that game since.
Yep.
I'm not as worried about that because I do think that that's kind of what you saw both Purdue and Rutgers try to do against us.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see because there's no benefit for either teams of having the bye other than we're going to see two healthy teams playing each other because they both got the same amount of time off. It's kind of nice, actually. Want to jump into the questions?
Sure. Real quickly, before we go into those, with our defense, do you think Tommy Hill's going to get back? And if he does, what do you think they do with Sierra Wright then?
Well, first of all, from what I understand, coming onto the field last week,
he ruptured it.
He ruptured the sac,
which is actually a good thing.
Yes, it's just like have you ever heard of a Bible thumper cyst? It's a cyst that you get.
I don't go to church, so
it's so. Well, if you've ever been in a hotel,
beat the shit out of with a Bible
if you've
too.
ever been in a hotel, you get it. But it apparently it comes from. I've actually had one recently, like a year ago. It comes from wearing your shoes too tight, but it's a cyst that forms on the top of your foot, like on the bridge.
I have that right here
on the top.
Same
well,
thing. Yeah.
Okay, so they call it a Bible thumper cyst because
I've heard that because
you just need to pop it and you smash it with the Bible. That's why they call it that. I don't remember what it's actually called.
I remember this,
but it's painful as fuck.
This thing on my wrist, it doesn't hurt, but I remember when I first grew it, and it actually used to be bigger.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what it was. But I asked my mom about it. I was like, "What the hell is this?" And she goes, "Honestly, you just it just rests and it might go away. But otherwise, if you take a big book, so maybe a Bible, and you smash it and break that all up, it'll be fine." And
hurts like hell.
I'm like, let's not do that, and we're just gonna see what happens.
I'm happy to have a lump for a while.
Yeah.
So he's maybe on the road to recovery then.
Well, they said he's been able to practice full bore all week, both weeks.
So he's in.
The expectations that he's in. The other thing is, Sierra Wright got a black shirt this week.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy that you know is going to be starting at corner, regardless of whether or not Tommy Hill's back. That really comes into play. And Tony White was asked about this in his press conference, and he kind of smirked a little bit because it was kind of one of those, I'm a little gluttonous of riches right now, but
it's a good problem to have.
It's a very good problem to have. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Buford play at the safety a little bit more. Hartzog's going to get a little less time back there.
I think you might see a good, healthy rotation of guys too.
Yeah.
And
everybody will play.
Yeah,
but
I mean, you see a guy get targeted once or twice, and unless he's just absolutely locking down the ball, mix some stuff around a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be able to keep him a little bit more fresh. He also brought up the fact that Bly Hill is, getting his legs under him. He's getting up to speed on everything. So we're starting to get super healthy on that back end.
Yeah.
And it's only going to help
Gotta
us.
love a healthy back end.
Gotta love a healthy back end, especially a thick one.
Is that
the other thing we need to do before we do this, thank you guys so much.
Yes.
The news we dropped on the last show, we're very, very excited about that. We've worked hard towards this. It is all because of you guys and the support that you give us in liking this show, subscribing to this show, sharing this show. We appreciate it. We really, really, really love doing this for you guys.
So keep liking and subscribing, motherfuckers.
And the reaction you guys have had towards us for our big news, we appreciate it very much.
Yes. On to the questions.
Yes. So there's going to be a lot of what will be more questions in this one. And when I say a lot, I mean like basically all of them. Question number 1, who will have more passing yards, Rourke or Raiola? Rourke is averaging 292 per game. Raiola is averaging 226 per game. Indiana is first in the Big Ten in passing. Nebraska is 8th in allowing passing yards of 188. Nebraska passing is 8th in the Big Ten with 244 per game. And Indiana is 6th on defensive passing with 171. So who, between, not the team, because hell, hopefully not on our side specifically, and I also
Ideally, the
don't root
team-
for injuries on the other side either. But
Hey, there might be a faked punt or something. You never know.
yes, who will have more passing yards, Rourke or Raiola?
I'm going to take Rourke on this one, and my reason is twofold. One, just math. He's got higher numbers this year than Raiola does. Some of that is because of the Rutgers game where there was crazy wind and we didn't hardly throw the ball, and when we did, it wasn't accurate. The other reason is unless this becomes just a giant shootout and everybody's throwing the ball just to keep up with each other, I think we keep our game plan of being pretty balanced. And while they have decent rushers, they're kind of pass heavy on their side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking Rourke on this one.
Well, and we're kind of pass heavy too because we have to be. Like,
Yeah,
we don't really run the ball very well.
We haven't been able to establish the run. That's something that I think might be a little bit different in this game from a standpoint of our offensive line being so much bigger than their defensive line.
Why is Mazuka going to be back in?
That's not a question that's been answered.
Because otherwise, I don't expect us to have any better running game.
Well, we didn't hear about him this week, so I kind of expect that he's going to at least get a little bit more play. You can't deny the effectiveness of him against Rutgers. So, I mean, maybe it'll be a giveaway that we're running the ball when he comes in. Who knows? But one way or the other, when I look at this game and I look at the fact that we're probably going to have to score, like this is going to be a necessity for our offense to be effective. This is not going to be a sit back, play it safe, try to give the defense some rest type thing. You got to unload the playbook here because if this turns into a boat race, they will outrace us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for that reason, I'm going to take Raiola. Also because what we already talked about when it comes to the his stats against the way that they like to play defense. 89% of the passing defense plays this year, Indiana is playing zone. And Rhule right now is ranked 5th in the nation in quarterbacks against the zone. The dude just picks zones apart. I don't really feel like this is going to be a difficult game for our offensive line from a standpoint of a lot of packages, bringing a lot of quick stuff. This is going to be more of they're trying to stay back in coverage. They're going to have to double a lot of our guys based on the size that we already talked about. That size disadvantage is going to be huge. You're going to see some jump balls. I think you're going to see a lot more of a concerted effort to get specific top wide receivers in the game a little bit more. Having Nair get no catches in the last game, simply unacceptable. I think this is going to be the first game that Raiola goes over 300. I think he's probably going to have to be somewhere in that 350 range for us to score like we're going to need to score to put this on Indiana.
Do you think he looks more accurate down the field than he has recently?
It's going to depend. I mean, I haven't actually checked the weather yet for that, but
I checked it a couple of days ago. Obviously, things can change, but it's basically 72 and fucking beautiful, like perfect day.
I'm more thinking about the wind.
oh my.
I don't think that there was really much of, like, definitely not 30 to 40 mile an hour gust winds like we had last time.
No.
Okay.
Just looking at the weather right now, it's 74, wind gusts of up to 7 miles per hour
Yeah.
with a mild breeze of 2.
Okay. So it's about perfect conditions for a
Perfect
passing game.
conditions for throwing the ball around
For both
around
teams.
the yard. And I've got to go with Dylan Raiola here just simply because of the way that I'm going to pick this game.
Well, the way that you phrase that, I might pick this game differently, but I'm also going Raiola. Mainly because that's the only thing that we are reliably good at. Like you said, the size of our wide receivers and basically the type of defense that Indiana plays, we have to throw the ball. How successful?
Too good of an opportunity not to.
Exactly. So I'm going with Raiola for more passing yards. Question number 2, who will have more rushing yards, Nebraska or Indiana? Indiana is currently 4th in the Big Ten with 200 per game. Nebraska is 13th in the Big Ten with 84 per game. Defensively, Indiana is actually better than us, only allowing 83 yards per game. Nebraska allows 84 yards per game. So it's basically the same as far as defense goes.
A cunt hair splits them.
Yes. So who will have more rushing yards, Nebraska or Indiana?
It's a thick cunt hair, by the way.
It's a whole yard.
I don't ever want to meet that bitch.
No. She's a huge bitch. I think there's been a mistake.
Did you say stick?
So anyway.
About that glaring hole that we talked about earlier.
Oh, shit. Put a bus through that, though.
This is the type of show you guys came to listen to.
And this is the type of show that we appreciate you.
This is the type of show that you like and subscribe for. Oh, fuck. I almost forgot the question. You said by team.
Can you tell I'm on vacation mode already?
By team, yes.
By team, who's going to rush more
Yes.
or have more yards?
Yes. More yards, yes.
Well, because of how I picked the last one, I'm going to have to take Nebraska here.
Why? Why compared to the last question?
Because if they're going to pass better than us and rush better than us, that's going to have a real tough consequence on our team.
Okay.
Also, I think we get better this week in the rushing game. And I think we really keep relying on those sweeps because they work.
Those don't count for rushing yards.
They do if you don't go like this with the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, which typically we're doing.
It's about 50-50.
Anyway, I'm also going to go Nebraska in this one just simply because of the fact that our defense, since the halfway point of that Purdue game, has re-locked itself down. And in many people across the nation's eyes, especially after what happened with Oregon putting, 37 or something like that on Ohio State.
It was low 30s, but yeah.
A lot of people are starting to grumble about Nebraska potentially having the best defense in the Big Ten.
I haven't heard that, but
I heard it 3 different times today.
Better than
on 3 different
better
shows.
Than Penn State's.
Better than Penn State, better than Michigan, better than Ohio State. They're referencing Michigan and Nebraska now. I really truly think Nebraska's defense is going to be the dictator in this game, and it's going to start. It's going to start with the fact that you have a situation like, and I wish I had put it on a button, Ty Robinson saying they don't get in.
Yeah, if
the confidence that team has right now against the run is, I'm getting chills, stupid.
Yeah,
it's
great.
It's stupid.
And I will have a question about that in a second.
I
Not
would
goosebumps,
guess
but
we hold them under 100, and I think we're going to go over 100 based on the way I think this game's going to play out.
You literally just stole what I was going to say, is that I think we hold them under 100, and I think we get barely over 100.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Nebraska as well.
I think our defense is the determining factor in this
Yes.
game.
Well,
Yes.
Again, it has to be.
Of all of the facets, including special teams, which is a big question mark still for us, I still think if our defense plays the way that they're able to, none of this matters.
Because the reason why I say it has to be is because as much as we continue to say, rightfully so, Indiana has not played a defense like ours. We have not played an offense like theirs.
Agreed.
So our defense has to be the factor in this game. And I, again, might not pick this way, but I trust that our defense will at least step up and show up. Question number 3, who will have the better completion percentage, Rourke or Raiola? Same kind of question, but completion percentage. Rourke is at 73.8%. Nebraska allows 58.3%. Raiola is at 66.9%. Sort of nice. And Indiana allows 61%.
I'll take this one.
Raiola was basically 70% previous to last week, so that's why his percentage is much lower than what Rourke is. But who will have the
They're
better
about
completion
the same.
percentage? Yeah.
I was actually going to go straight to that Rutgers game and basically say, just like Dylan Raiola did, according to the coaches, you have to wipe the Rutgers game off the map.
Yeah.
I think Rourke actually reminds me so much of Mac Jones in that last year at Alabama that it's kind of crazy. The only difference is he doesn't have the dynamic wide receivers.
Is he that fat?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
actually.
according to some people during the offseason, Raiola is really fat. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't really care how fat he
Okay.
is. My whole thing is that he plays it safe. He does play it very, very safe with the ball. That being said, the way that we're going to have pressure on him, he is going to make mistakes because he hasn't seen a pass rush like this. And he hasn't seen dudes coming at him with asses falling at his feet the way that he's going to with Nash and Ty. I'm going to say that he's going to have a down day. I'm taking Raiola.
Well, I'm also taking Raiola, but for the other side, the Raiola side, which is he plays pretty phenomenally against the zone, and that's about all they play. So as long as he has the time that he needs, which to this point he has on throwing the ball, he's going to find those open pockets in their defense, and he's going to be very high percentage on his throws.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Rourke only in the fact of I think we're going to throw the ball much more than Indiana will. So I'm kind of playing the percentage because I think that Indiana is going to try to continue to run the ball. Whether they're successful or not is a completely different conversation. But I'm playing the percentage as far as like the fewer amount of passes, thinking that they're going to complete more of them in that aspect.
Okay.
Question 4 is what will be more? Okay, so this kind of gets a little wordy, but offensive.
Jed getting wordy.
Yeah.
So weird.
Offensive first quarter points for Nebraska or Nebraska tackles for loss for the entire game. So obviously we can have a push here. So the point is Rutgers has allowed 0 points in the first quarter. They've outscored their opponents 73-0 in the first quarter. Indiana has allowed 12 of their 21 tackles for loss in Big Ten games. So they played 3 Big Ten games. They've allowed 12 tackles for loss. Nebraska has had 20 of their 42 tackles for loss in Big Ten games. So again, what will be more? First quarter points offensively for Nebraska or tackles for loss for the entire game for Nebraska? Because the last 2 games, Nebraska has had 9 tackles for loss in each game. So
I'm going to start out by saying Nebraska tackles for loss. That's my answer.
Okay.
That said, I still think we score in the first quarter.
That's fine.
I could very easily, I don't know about our first drive because we've struggled on that the last 3 games.
Because like even if you think we're going to only score
We're
7,
50-50 on the season.
Yeah.
even if you only think
3
we're
games.
again, you can take the push if maybe 7-7 or whatever else. But I'm just throwing that out.
I'm
there.
not taking a push. I'm
That's fine.
taking Nebraska's defense here, but I still think we score that touchdown in the first quarter.
Okay.
My thing is, I think we very, very easily could get into double digits for tackles for loss.
Okay.
Especially with that RPO game where if we completely jump on an RPO and it's a swing pass out, we're going to get those tackles in the backfield, or we get to the quarterback, 2, 3, 4, 5 times before he gets to throw the ball if he's trying to throw it downfield. That I see there's much more opportunity for us to get tackles for loss, and we're going to put up some sort of points in that first quarter.
Okay.
Matt said almost everything that I was going to say.
Thanks for letting me go first.
So, what I will throw in there is that when they're not in the RPO game, this offense looks a lot like Colorado. And he plays a lot like Shedeur Sanders, holding onto the ball way too long. If that's the case, I do think that you're looking at probably 4 to 6 sacks in this game because of the way that we're going to pressure them down the stretch, and they're going to have to try and play a little bit of comeback, in my opinion. I'm going with tackles for loss, and I still think we score probably at least once, if not twice, in this game, in the first quarter.
In this game.
Okay.
In this game.
I hope we score. Yeah. I'm going to go with points just because average-wise, again, they've allowed 12 tackles for loss in their 3 Big Ten games. That's 4 per game. I get it. They haven't seen a defensive line like ours, blah, blah, blah. We keep repeating that.
No, I'm with you.
But I think we do score at least 7 points in the first quarter, and I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I would say either points or push. I don't know that we're going to get to 7.
I will say, if we score more than once in the first quarter, which is also possible,
Yeah.
then that makes it really difficult
It does.
for that to be
Now,
anything.
now with
Yeah,
what-
because it's probably not going to be 10 points.
Well, but also with what you
Right.
said, as far as comparing it to the Colorado, we had 10 tackles for loss against Colorado.
Yeah.
So, and that aspect would be the push, but still,
I'm with you. I'm just not counting on a field goal.
14 tackles for loss is a little difficult to get to, is my point.
yes.
Here's what I'll say. I don't
That's why
really
I'm going
care
with the
either
points.
way as long as they're both double digits. How about that? How about them apples?
Yeah. I would love a push at 14.
So
Yeah,
this
fuck yeah. Let's go.
So question 5 is the only one that I have that is not what will be more. This is kind of the eye-popping stat of Nebraska in the college football season because we are the only team to not allow a rushing touchdown. Do we allow a rushing touchdown this week? Indiana has 23 rushing touchdowns on the season. It's the most in the Big Ten and third in the country. So do we allow a rushing touchdown this week?
Yes. Cinderella stories are awesome. They happen almost every year in every collegiate
Well, it's
sport.
also not going to be 0 for the entire season. Like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, but this can kind of become a punt return stat where you can keep asking this every week until it's wrong.
Don't step on my story. Don't step on my moment. Cinderella stories happen every year. This game, you're looking at two really good ones. Nebraska's defense and that story of they don't get in. And Indiana and this story here. I think both those Cinderella stories end this week.
Matt?
I'm just saying no and prove it. Like, I don't prove it, Indiana. Try and get past our trained polar bears up front. Prove it.
I really like their...
They're calling them now the polar bear and the vanilla gorilla.
Great.
I
Try and get past our trained, aggressive zoo animals up front.
I think it was actually Cover 3 called him the vanilla gorilla. Ty Robinson, the vanilla gorilla.
Love it. Great.
I'm going with a yes as well, just because they like to run the ball, and they're really good in the red zone too. So they score touchdowns in the red zone.
Fuck them up. I don't care.
Question 6: who will have more quarterback pressures? That's sacks, hits, and hurries. Mikhail Kamara for Indiana, or my guy James Williams. Kamara has 26 on the season, 13 in the last 3 games. James Williams, who has played a lot less than Kamara has 20 on the season compared to 26 for Kamara, and also has 13 in the last 3 games.
Wow.
I don't want to steal your thunder this time. Do you want to go first? Otherwise, I have an answer.
2 seconds.
Oh.
Indiana offensive line has allowed 22 pressures on the season. Nebraska offensive line has allowed 38 pressures on the season.
Yeah. I was going to go with Indiana's guy regardless. Just simply kind of like you guys keep saying about other stuff, math. James Williams doesn't get on the field as frequently.
Mm-hmm.
He's also not.
But he's also still really close in statistics, though. So I mean, it's kind of like...
I agree with that, but he's not going to be on the field for the majority of what they're going to try and do to us, which is the RPO game.
I get it.
James Williams.
Okay.
I was thinking for a second about what he said about the RPO game, which is true.
Yeah.
But also, RPOs are hard to see coming. And so I think he's going to be on the field regardless of whether or not they're running RPOs. And he's just better than the other guy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about better, because Kamara, like last year at James Madison, he had 18.5 tackles for loss.
Who gives a shit? He was at James Madison.
He currently has 7.5 on the season.
Yeah.
And like, he's pretty fucking good.
My point still stands. Who gives a shit? He hasn't played anybody.
Fine. So when you're watching this game, look for number 6 on that defensive line and on the edge. He won't disappoint you as far as just being a football fan. He's fun to watch.
I'm going to look for number 6 getting pancaked a lot on the defensive edge. Benhart, this is your game.
Bryce Benhart, you're on it, man.
I kind of want to take Kamara, but how can I not take my man crush?
Yeah, you got it. I mean,
if you don't take
No
him,
one knows what it means.
Exactly.
we're all just as confused as you, but Jed is picking the positives here, even though he's going to pick Indiana to win.
Not completely, but yeah, I'm taking Williams. My last question is, who has more receiving yards? Indiana's Elijah Surratt or Nebraska's Isaiah Nayor? Surratt has 3 100-plus yard games. Nayor has 1. The leading receiver versus Indiana's defense averages 59 yards per game. The leading receiver of our opponents against Nebraska's defense is averaging 63 yards per game. So it's pretty equal as far as that goes. So who will have more receiving yards between the two guys, Surratt or Nayor?
I really wish that you had put Banks on here instead of Nayor, because I think this is a Banks game.
But I chose to take the top guys on each team.
I get it.
But
Banks finds the soft spots in zone better than anybody on our team.
I struggled between the 2 top guys on Indiana and the 2 top guys for us, and I just said, screw it. I'm just going to take the top 2 guys for each team.
That's fair. Because of that, and this is just a who's going to have more, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Surratt. Just
I
simply
guess
because
technically you could take a push in this instance, but the chances of two
Yeah,
guys
that's
getting
wild.
the exact same slim to none.
I'm going with Surratt just simply because of the fact that I have to give Indiana something on this show. And Nayer's just kind of fallen off in the last couple of weeks, and Banks has been the guy finding the super soft spots. Especially if we're going to get ourselves in third down situations, Banks seems to be the go-to guy there. I think it's going to be more of his day and a Ja'Cory Barney day. So for that reason, I'm going to go Surratt.
I'm going Surratt as well. Like you said, Nayor's, it's not that he's gone completely away, but he's fallen off some in the last couple of games. And Surratt has been their number one receiver in the last two
Absolutely.
games. Like he had two big games in their last
Yeah.
two games.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there 100%. I think it's going to be him. I think we also spread the ball around a little bit better than they do.
Well, and
This
They-
could
both
be
teams do it
I
really
was
good.
gonna
this could
Yeah.
be a big Fedoni game.
possibly. The other thing with Surratt, like I said, he has 3 100-plus yard receiving games this year. Last year at James Madison, he had like 5 or 6 towards the end of the year. He had over 1,000, like I think 1,190 something receiving yards last year. Again, I know James Madison didn't play, whatever. If you have close to 1,200 receiving yards, I don't care who the fuck you're playing, you're pretty damn fucking good. So, this one is a tough one for me because I had said earlier that I think that we're going to throw the ball more than what Indiana does. I don't really want to pick the same thing you guys did. I was kind of hoping you guys didn't pick the same guy. So fuck it. I'll just go with Nair and see what happens.
Jed's just trying to play the opposites of us. That's all he's doing.
That happens.
I got games that I need to pick up on.
This
On
is
this
the
asshole.
strange thing, though, is he's picked Nebraska to be the positive in most of these, and then he's going to go and pick Indiana to win the fucking game.
I am.
I think he's just trying to pick games up on the champ over here.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
am.
I'm saying.
I don't care. I pick with my gut, and it's big. Sorry for all you on video that have to look at it. That's all you got?
Yeah,
That's
it.
all you got.
Yep.
Well, we are a 11 a.m. kick on Fox, the big noon game. Joel Klatt's going to be calling this one. He has a massive hard-on for Dylan Raiola, so be ready for a lot of slobbing on the knob there. It's supposed to be game time, 62 degrees, as we already talked about, like no wind.
It's gonna be perfect
Sunny
for
with no
football.
clouds. It's going to be beautiful. I'm so excited about this game just simply from a standpoint of national attention on a BS game that we would have thought nobody would be looking at preseason. You get one of the 2 game day shows out there in Bloomington, Indiana. Preseason Nebraska, all the FPIs, they said Nebraska. Vegas said Nebraska by 4. Right now you've got Nebraska. The line opened up. Indiana, Nebraska's getting +5 in that. It ballooned all the way up yesterday. I saw it as high as +7.5. It's back down to 6.5 now. But the over-under, strangely, and I know Indiana's defense is also rated highly like ours, the over-under is only at 50.5. I think that's wild. This definitely has more of an offensive game, especially with the way the weather is for me. It has more of an offensive game than what we would expect. The only way that I see us staying under the 50 is if Nebraska wins like 35 to like 14. That's the way that I'm seeing
I
something
don't
like
see
this
that
come
happening.
through.
Yeah, I'm
I
definitely
see a
taking
much
the
closer
under.
game.
I'm definitely taking the under.
You're taking the under
Oh, yeah.
for sure?
Yeah.
Really?
See, for me, this is more of a like 28-24 style game or 35-28 style game. I'm just not seeing how you can stay under that. I'm absolutely hammering Nebraska taking 6.5 points here. No doubt. I think Nebraska wins straight up. I'd play the money line, though it's not that juicy at +190.
I would take Nebraska with the points, but yes, I am taking Indiana to win the game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be battling in the mid-20s on both sides.
And it's going to come down to a field goal, in your opinion.
I don't know about, I mean, it might, but
God, I hope not.
no shit. Some of the big factors in my aspect is red zone scoring. I know we were 2 for 2 last time against Rutgers, and that's great. But when Indiana gets in the red zone, they score touchdowns. It's 81% or it's 81% of the time that they get in the red zone, they're scoring a touchdown. And obviously, we know our situation with kicking field goals and our situation of typically getting into the end zone, even in the red zone. I think that them scoring more consistent points is going to be the factor in this game. But I think it's going to be a great game. And I don't really fucking know who's going to win this. But because it's at Indiana, that's my tipping point in the factor of this game. I'm taking Indiana to win this game, but I would take Nebraska with the points because I don't think Indiana's going to win by a touchdown.
Definitely taking Nebraska with the points. Taking Nebraska to win the game just barely. I think it's going to be more of a 4-point game win by Nebraska because we will have one touchdown over their 4 field goal.
On either side.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the over too. Not a ton over, but I could see, 52, 54 points, something like a 31 to 28, 31 to 27, somewhere in there. It's going to be a good game.
I know
this is going to be a fun fucking game to watch.
I know one of the big conversations, and we were trying to find it earlier before we started recording, as far as, the conversation has been Indiana has not been punched in the mouth yet this year. And we will find out who Indiana is when they get squeezed, when they get punched in the mouth. And we will squeeze them. We will punch them in the mouth. I believe in Cignetti. I believe in Rhule, but I believe in Cignetti. He's a great coach. Again, I think that the home team situation is the factor, in my opinion. But
I see that's another thing. I just don't think it's going to be as big of a factor for us here.
I hope I'm wrong.
Nebraska fans are going to flood that fucking stadium.
Maybe.
Tell you what, though,
they sold it out, so we'll see.
I think Fox did a good job picking their big noon game.
100%.
Obviously, there are some other phenomenal games going on this week. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia is playing Texas, I think.
Well, big noon's not going to go to those.
That's
games,
what I mean. They picked a good game because it's going to be a really fun one for everybody to watch.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game.
I think it's going to be fun for Nebraska fans to watch, for sure.
I hope so.
It'll be great.
I might be watching it on my phone, so.
Yikes. I won't be. I will be watching it from the comfort of that couch.
I'll be watching it from my grandma's house.
Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, guys. We love you. We'll catch you next time.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.